All right, welcome to episode 10 of season 2 of the Jump in the Rail podcast from Champaign, Illinois. This is Mark Redman, and as usual, I'm joined by my tag team partner who I took out of the stream here, the Italian stallion, Gary Vaselio. Gary, how's it going, buddy?
Oh, it's going.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had a day, but
Eh,
I,
I've
I
had
think
a
we
few
all have.
weeks. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
well,
mostly tired.
yeah, I hear that. We're kind of old, so uh, well, we hope everybody had a good holiday over the weekend. Let's see, Dwayne, as if on cue. What's up? What's up, Dwayne? And Dwayne, I saw you had some opinions because if you weren't aware, today is our second annual year in review episode of the Jump in the Rail podcast. Very exciting. I don't know, Gary. I know you're on pins and needles, but
Yes, all of the pins and all of the needles.
all the pins and all the needles. And so, full disclosure, we were planning on having our buddy Narge calling join us. He will not be with us, but he did send me his list of all his choices for the topics for the year in review, which I promise. Last year, we made the mistake of having way too many subjects, so we went just about 3 hours on this episode. We will hopefully not be doing that this year. I cut the topics down because I don't
No,
think Gary, I don't think you'll make it 3 hours. You'll probably fall asleep.
no, I'm gonna watch the clock.
Yeah.
I gotta be up at like 6 a.m. So
Hey, I got to be up at 5, so I'm right there with you. See, my wife is getting ready to flee the domicile right behind me. Oh, just making fun of
Oh,
you.
I'm sorry. You're popping up on camera
Oh,
again.
oh, you're fine. All right. So first things first, Gary. There's this weekend we've had a few anniversaries that we could probably discuss a little bit. First and foremost, today is the 24th, and this makes me feel very old. The 24th anniversary of when Kevin Nash ended Goldberg's unbeaten streak, Starcade '98, with the help of Scott Hall and a stun gun. Do do you remember that one at all? I've seen the match maybe twice.
I, you know what? I know I saw the match because I watched all the pay-per-views then, and I I just remember the stun gun part, and I
Mhm.
remember not caring because at that point, like Goldberg had already lost his luster for me. So that was, I was like, but then, but in the same breath, I was like, that's the dumbest way I've ever seen the industry. I, I wanted somebody to do it because I was like, man, he doesn't do anything. Like the best match Goldberg ever had was against Diamond Dallas Page, and
Well,
I
see,
think
I think
Goldberg should have dropped the title then. I
yeah,
really do.
if it
I
wasn't
avoid not just because I'm a Page mark, but it was his best match. He knocked himself out anyway. If I were Page, I would have just pinned him.
yeah, if it wasn't going to be Nash, Page would have been the guy to do it. I think. I disagree. I think his best match was with Perry Saturn.
Oh
It's,
yeah,
I forget what pay per view it was. It was really good, and nobody expected it because it was Saturn, and nobody really knew him outside of ECW because he was still really new with the company then. But I was never a Goldberg fan. I was a big Nash fan. He was always one of my favorites. But yeah, the finish with the taser always kind of really bothered me. Uh, but yeah, the match itself wasn't much to write home about either. From all I remember is the taser and the power bomb. So I'm with you on
yeah.
that one. John thumbs up Goldberg. The big thumbs down in studio in the living room. My brother Johnny Adequate, you remember him from our WrestleMania preview show last year, was just hanging out. So every now and then I might prompt him for an opinion. It won't be for the new stuff. Uh, Old John doesn't watch the new stuff, but
I can do match of the year. That's about it.
all right. But so yeah, we're going over anniversaries. The first one was Goldberg and Nash, John. But the next one, maybe my favorite out of all of them, is on Monday. So yesterday was the 39th anniversary of the Iron Sheik beating Bob Backlund for the world title. a month before he transitioned over to Hogan. And Sheik needed to have a longer run. I think a month was a disservice to the Iron Sheik.
Well, the Sheik's never forgot it.
No.
He's never forgot that. So
He still
No,
talks
I mean,
about the Giovanni Hogan.
well, it's always funny because like Sheik could still work when they decided to give Slaughter the belt, and like Sheik could still work, and Sheik was actually, closer to the enemy they were trying to portray, and they just had him as like a, was he General Adnan at that point or something?
General Adnan, yeah, he was. Now,
Yeah.
technically, he outranked Sergeant Slaughter, so he should have gotten the shot first.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm no expert, but I think General outranked Sergeant. Did you hear the story about who was originally supposed to be in that spot instead of Slaughter?
No.
It was supposed to be if you believe anything Bruce Pritchard tells you, which I know, grain of salt, it was supposed to be Sheik Tugboat. Like literally, Fred Ottman as a Sheik going into WrestleMania. Because it was right around the time he was going to switch to, they were going to turn him heel. But instead of making him the Typhoon, which was awesome, they were going to put him in a Sheik garb and make him Sheik Tugboat.
Well,
which we can all be thankful that didn't happen.
I'm surprised they didn't just rehire One Man Gang or just make him do it. They made him do everything
There were
else.
more ethnicities they could have put the gang through. Yeah, there were definitely some head scratching creative ideas, even back in the early '90s, that make some of the decisions in the last 10 years seem logical by comparison.
Yeah.
Hello. Yep, my cat's bugging me. The kayfabe kitty, Noodles Redmond, is over here, and the other one, and on Christmas Day, on Sunday, Gary, was the 40th anniversary of arguably the greatest feud ever kicking off, which was when Terry Gordy slammed the cage door on Kerry Von Erich.
Oh yeah.
Sportatorium sparked the Freebirds and the Von Erichs.
Legit knocked him out.
Yeah. For some reason, Hayes was a shirtless referee in that match. Yeah, they couldn't find him a referee shirt. I mean, I don't know, but
Yeah, it was Texas, man.
It's
Lucky
true.
anybody had a shirt.
It's true. Even the security guy with the big cowboy hat that you always saw in the Sportatorium that was walking the guys to the ring. But yeah, that was awesome because the Freebirds were baby faces going into that, and then just something clicked and Hayes knocked out Flair, tried to get Kerry to pin him. Kerry was the goody two shoes, and one thing leads to another, and Bam Bam just knocked him out with the steel door. So, and the rest was history, as they say. But it was wonderful history because it was so good. It gave us the country whipping match. If you remember that one, where they just had straps just beat the fuck out of each other. And
Yeah, strap matches are always fun.
When done right,
Because it's just pain, as
Yeah.
Clubber Lang would eloquently put it.
Yes, verbatim, pain.
Pain.
All right. If you had to pick, Gary, and I'm not asking you which one you would prefer to be in, but watching, you prefer a scrap match or a chain match?
I've been in strap matches, and it hurts, but I mean, chains are gonna cut you and leave marks and big bruises, and can, if you're trying to do spots like Foley and them try to do hanging each other, and I'm not all about that. I would rather just take the sting and then.
When you were in a strap match, did you have a shirt on at least?
Yes.
Oh.
Always.
Smart. Very smart. Dwayne put a comment in here, Gary, asking. That's my Goldberg streak. I just caught this. A little tardy. Sorry, Dwayne. Asking, was the Goldberg streak inflated? Yeah, I'd say it was. As far as the numbers go.
I mean,
I don't
he was.
think they were working the house shows good.
Yeah, I mean, if he worked like every house show, and I'm guessing he was up against like, oh, I can't think of the guy's name, Jerry Flynn.
Jerry Flynn, I remember him. Yeah.
He was probably against Jerry Flynn or like Norman Smiley, or I mean, there was
Lodi,
probably the
maybe?
same. It was Lodi. Yeah, it's probably the same dudes over and over and over again. It's
Mark
probably the same
Starr.
guy getting, yeah, probably the same guy getting beat every night. Maybe El Dandy for some flavor, but
Yeah.
if it
Now, you're not making
wasn't,
fun of El Dandy.
no, El Dandy was great, but
There's a guy over my left shoulder that was a big El Dandy fan back in the day.
hey, he had the world's fastest mahi mahi. But no, I mean it had to be. They had to pump the numbers at some point. I'm sure at some point they're like, oh, we just got to add some numbers in. Nobody's gonna know
Well,
because it
there
definitely
is no
wasn't from
accurate figures
televised
in
only.
wrestling. Yeah. There are no accurate numbers, whether it's when you announce the attendance for a show,
Weight,
a wrestler's weight. Yeah.
their
I
height,
mean,
their
I love Andre, but he was not 7'4".
no.
He was 7'2", maybe 7'1". But and now toward the end of his run, 520 might be a believable number for his weight because he
Yeah, he
got a
got big.
little heavy.
Because I think Show got up to like close to 6, right, for a little bit.
No, he never got that close.
At his biggest.
He always stayed right around that 520 mark at his heaviest.
Yeah.
Now, Loch Ness, he was about 600. The old giant haystacks.
Yeah.
So, Gary, would you believe we've flown off topic again?
Yeah.
It seems like
It's all
every
Dwayne's
time
fault.
it's all Dwayne's fault. Damn it, Dwayne. Yeah, we're kidding. But now, so we're going to shake things up a little bit. Like I said, we got our big year in review here. And before we do that, we're going to do the stuff that we do at the end of most of our shows, starting with our JTR Hall of Fame. And there's our graphic, professional as always. And picked a guy who, and I picked him because I thought Narge was coming on. It's all good anyway because this is the guy that Narge says is at the top of his list of people he wants to meet, and I'm right there with him. I had a chance to meet him about 15 years ago. But we're going with the King, Gerald, Jerry Lawler, for this one.
Yeah, it's hard to.
Like I said, yeah, these first probably several choices for this every episode. They're all going to be no-brainers. It's just about what order you want to put them in. But the King is one of my favorites. Love the old Memphis stuff, you know.
Lawler's Lawler's always been good. He could always talk. Like Memphis TV ratings were insane. It was another one of those territories that their local TV ratings were ratings that some major programming would want now. Like it was just crazy. But he will always be linked with Andy Kaufman because I think Kaufman was the reason that a lot of the guys from Memphis went on to bigger things because that got a national eye on that. Because I know Vince Sr. wasn't interested in Kaufman, but then saw all the publicity, and then of course Lawler and was it the Junkyard Dog and all those guys ended up going to WWF.
Oh, that was from Mid-South.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but the
Who
story
else
goes
was in Memphis?
Macho Man was in Memphis. He wasn't with Mid-South the whole time. He was also doing the ICW. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, so with that, and something occurred to me today when I was at work. I don't think that Andy Kaufman angle would have worked with anybody but Jerry Lawler. If Vince Sr. had agreed to bring him in, I don't know who he had that would have been nearly as entertaining with him as Lawler was. Because at the time, This is 82. I mean, you got Bob Backlund.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Backlund and Kaufman. I mean, Coffin's promos would be gold on Backlund.
Well, I mean,
But
you look at it, and Jerry took such good care of a guy who didn't know anything, and he pile drove him, and he did all these matches and made him look like $1,000,000. Andy, of course, Andy used his own money for hospital stays, but
yeah,
but
he paid for the ambulance.
Lawler, I mean, he until what, the last maybe 5 years, like he didn't break kayfabe. Like, he always talked about Andy, why would I want to talk about him? And now he's just now starting to like open up about it, and that's a special dude, that because there are a lot of guys would have jumped on the chance for the fame and the notoriety, and Lawler has just always been about the business and working and getting the job done.
Mhm.
And he's a fantastic worker. Like, I've seen some of his matches that were 95% punches, and I was still entertained
Oh yeah,
because it was the story they were telling. So yeah, I'm sure he's got to be in the WWE Hall of Fame already, right?
yes, yeah. He
Yeah.
went in the same year JR went in.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
Yeah, I mean, everybody remembers the Coffin feud. Everybody remembers the feud he had with Brett in WWF. Overall, like his in ring in the WWF, I was underwhelmed by. I mean, not just because he was on commentary, but I thought they could have done so much more with him as a heel than just making him the comedy guy. Making the.
yeah.
Well, I know he always talked about the ladies and the old saying about leopards and changing their spots and everything, but. I mean, if you took Memphis Lawler in the WWF, I think he would have been a great heel there, and that could have played over because have you seen the McMemphis stuff on YouTube, Gary?
No.
When Vince was taking WWF guys down to Memphis and feuding with Lawler, that Vince was playing the Mr. McMahon character basically. This is like in 1993, and he
No.
had Owen and Brett and Tatanka down there, and
Oh yeah. Because he was using it kind of like a feeder, like a tune-up feeder territory.
yeah, it was like a developmental system, yeah. But one of the things they did was they had it, and my brother, he remembers this. There was the taping in, I want to say Boston, somewhere in a WWF show, where they filmed Vince interviewing Lawler on the podium, and it started off as being Lawler talking about Hitman, the heel Lawler, high pitch, all this stuff. In the middle of the promo, it pivoted to Memphis Lawler talking to heel Vince about the stuff going on in Memphis. And he turned it just on a dime. It was awesome. And if I can find the link, I'm going to put it on our Facebook page because it just showed how really effing good Jerry Lawler is at what he does.
He died for the business, man.
Literally.
Yeah.
For about 20 minutes. Well, I don't know how long it was, but yeah, it was scary. I didn't watch that episode when he had the heart attack. But
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah, that was the period when I didn't have cable, but I think I was cruising Facebook that night and it popped up. Jerry Lawler died. I'm like, what? It's like, what the hell are they talking about? And then yeah, just madness. And he goes to the hospital and still working today. He said he had no structural damage to his heart, which is insane to me. For as
Yeah, I
long
don't
as he
know
was
how
out there.
he had a massive heart attack, so I don't know how
Yeah.
he had no.
And he's still wrestling on indies. I mean, WWE won't let him work on TV for fair enough. But
Yeah. Well, so is Ricky Morton. So,
yeah,
and Gibson, I guess, kind of. I don't know. I haven't seen
I
what
think
he's
Robert
done.
retired, but I think Ricky's still he's wanting to team up with his boy in the NWA and all over the place. So he's still doing the thing,
Yeah.
I saw him. I was at a GCW show last year where he pinned Matt Cardona. So,
Well,
woo, woo, woo.
yeah. Yeah.
Also a nice guy, Ricky Morton. Just very personable guy when you see him at the shows and all that. That's another. We're talking about who came out of Memphis. Rock and Roll Express came out of Memphis,
That's right.
and but they went to Dallas or
Yeah.
Mid-South. No, Mid-South first because they went with the Midnight Express to Mid-South.
Jimmy Hart, Rick Rude.
Rick Rude, Jimmy Hart. Yeah, my brother's helping me out here. One Man Gang, I think, was from Memphis.
Yeah.
Digressing here.
But yeah, Jerry was the
Wayne
heart and
Hart.
soul of that whole thing. So
Yeah, Dwayne. I think Tommy Rich is still wrestling. I think you're right. I know he's making appearances, Dwayne, but I'm not sure how often he's wrestling anymore. Yeah, he was at that big ECW reunion show at the arena last weekend when Bully took on Cardona, which I still need to see if that's on Fight and watch that. But yeah, so stumbling back on the topic, yeah, Jerry Lawler for Hall of Fame, I think is an easy choice, and also, in my opinion, the true king of wrestling. I mean, all due respect to Harley Race, I mean, it's saying something when Harley got an injunction that he couldn't call himself the king when they were in Memphis, or I think in Tennessee, on the whole.
yeah,
So that shows what kind of juice Jerry had in Tennessee. So I think we can move on, Gary, to our top 10 Tuesday, and this might get me in some trouble in the house. We talked about the Freebirds during the cage match, and that made me think of this topic, Gary. Well, first off, graphic. There we go. And our subject today, Gary, greatest three-man teams. It's interesting, and I almost shit the bed on this one because there were a couple that I forgot about until like last minute, and I had to shoehorn them in. I had to remove Camp Cornette, Davey Boy Owen, and Yokozuna, and I had to remove the AWA Heenan family, Bockwinkel, Duncombe, and Blackjack Lanza, which would have made for good reminiscing, John, about the videotape you got from Corey with all the Baron von Raschke promos.
I was watching the Baron last night.
Oh,
Just-
the Baron.
a lot of claw.
Just talk about the Weasel. I can't do my Baron impression because it makes me cough. But anyway, so greatest three-man teams. This covers pretty much NWA, Mid-South, WWF, WCW, all the usual. We're going to start with number 10, and this is one that I had forgotten about. The Russians from the NWA, the Ivan and Nikita Koloff, and Crusher Khrushchev, who was, to be fair, American. But
Maybe on the list again later.
no, I think the Crusher is only on this one time.
Okay.
Is there only one? Is there only one Russian on the Russians?
There were no Russians on the Russians. Ivan Koloff is French Canadian.
Oh, never mind.
Nikita's from Atlanta, I think. Or no, Nikita's from Minnesota, and
Yeah.
Khrushchev is from Minnesota. So, but they're all places where you don't get a tan, so you can pull off the Russian complexion, you know. But awesome team. I love Nikita back when I was a kid, even though as I grew older, I realized he couldn't work out of a paper bag.
No, well, he's never really trained. He was just big.
No, he learned on the road. He rode with Ivan, and Ivan just taught him as they went, which is insane to me.
He's like, hey, you're a big guy.
That was,
Throw a clothesline.
That was a desperate call. It'll make you a rotten baby. So
They'll duck it if they don't want to die.
Why did he never go to WWE?
I don't know. I actually heard the story that they wanted him to come and be with Hogan, but it never happened. I don't know why. I think it had something to do with his wife. It might have been around the time his wife got sick, but I don't know that for sure. If we ever get Nikita on, we can ask him, but he won't answer my calls. Dwayne, Dwayne, you're helping me out today. Wasn't Boris Zukov part of the Russians? He was not. He was part of the Russians in Mid-South with Nikolai Volkov and Skandar Akbar, I think was the manager. And then he was, of course, with the Bolsheviks in WWF. But he was actually, in Mid-South, he got kicked out of the Russian group because it was revealed he wasn't Russian. His name was Jim Nelson. And he won a match, and then out of nowhere, Volkov just ran to the ring, just beat the crap out of him. I said, "This guy's not Russian."
Neither is he.
No, I mean Volkov's close. He's Yugoslavian, so at least he's Eastern European.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked watching the Russians. Ivan's awesome. He's the only guy that silenced the Garden back in '71 when he beat Bruno for the world title. And then Khrushchev, the man of a million gimmicks. You know, whether he's Crusher, Smash, Barry Hole-in-One, Darso, the Repo Man. You know, he did it all. And I think this was my favorite Darso gimmick, even more than Dimwit and Smash. I like the Crusher Khrushchev gimmick. But we're going to move on, Gary, to number 9. Sticking with the NWA back in the 80s, we got the Varsity Club, the original Varsity Club, which is Kevin Sullivan, Mike Rotunda, and Rick Steiner, which seemed like a very odd grouping to me. Because you got 2 amateur wrestling standouts with the devil, basically. And to be fair, Sully had the amateur background too. He never played it up. He was always doing the Army of Darkness stuff in Florida and all that. But they brought in a headgearless Rick Steiner and Mike Rotunda over from WWF, and they got a lot of steam because Rotunda won the TV title pretty fast there, and then Steiner was, I think, the Florida heavyweight champion when he came in. But that group kind of evolved over the years. Steiner turned babyface and feuded with them, but then they brought in Dr. Death and Danny Spivey to team up with them. So it had its phases like all the good groups do. I actually liked the Dr. Death version though.
Just don't think Dr. Death ever learned how to play nice enough to ever stick anywhere. He's in Japan mostly, but
I think he was
where you didn't
perfectly
really have
content
to
to be
play
in Japan.
nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, if there was ever a foreign wrestler made to work in Japan, it was Dr. Death.
Yeah.
Him and Hansen.
Yeah.
And you can throw Brody in that group too.
Andre.
John says Andre. Andre could work anywhere. Go check out his matches with Strong Kobayashi from the 70s. It's good stuff. Andre invented the tombstone. I don't know if you guys know that. He was the first guy to do the tombstone pile driver. Couldn't do it later on, but it is what it is. So yeah, Varsity Club didn't have a long run. They were only around for a couple of years. So that's why they're kind of low on the list. But I thought they deserved to be on there. On number 8, we're going to pivot to a little bit west, Gary, to the Mid-South territory for one of my favorites. That's the Rat Pack. It's Ted DiBiase, Hacksaw Duggan. It wasn't Hacksaw Jim Duggan in Mid-South. He was Hacksaw Duggan and Matt Bourne, the future Doink the Clown. But this is back when he was just the old maniac. So
Duggan and Bourne hate each other now.
Oh yeah, they hated each other then. They did not get along. I've heard stories about fist fights in the locker room, and DiBiase just kind of washed his hands of it. It's just crazy. But that was when they were getting DiBiase over as the top heel in the company. So they put him with the group. They turned Duggan. No, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Duggan was a heel the whole time, but he just was with Skandar Akbar before he put on the old gorilla suit and double-crossed the JYD. Which, out of context, sounds like an insane sentence to say. But, yeah, it was loser leaves tag team match. DiBiase and Bourne against Duggan and I think it was Mr. Olympia. And there was a guy in a gorilla suit hanging out with the kids in the crowd during the match. And at the end of it, the referee got distracted, and the guy in the gorilla suit runs in and hits JYD with a big tackle, and DiBiase got the pin, and JYD got to go work in North Carolina for a couple months. Because that's how they did it, Gary. If you needed to go to another territory, they made you leave town for 90 days or 60 days or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Wiggly.
Or he'd put a mask on and be stagger leave for a bit.
Yeah.
Which goes back to our last episode, which was the bad disguises. Stagger Lee was was really a doozy. Just because, come on, you know it was him. Oh, Gary disappeared. John, opinions of the Rat Pack?
Yeah, I mean that Mid-South territory was hot. DiBiase, I was watching some of his Mid-South stuff a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
He was just incredible.
Yeah.
You can kind of see him evolve almost into the $1 Million Man before he went to WWE.
Did you see the match he had with Flair when he got busted open?
No.
It was when his babyface turn. It was him against Flair for the world title. But Dick Murdoch had tried to get get DiBiase give him the title shot because he was his mentor. DiBiase said no, so Murdoch brain busted him on the floor and busted him up. This is before the match even started. So they cut, and this is the whole episode of the show. They took one to the back. Bill Watts is cutting a promo about how tough DiBiase is because he wants to keep going.
I think maybe I have seen this.
And then he comes out and has I want to say 20-minute match with Flair while still bleeding. And it was a pretty significant wound, too. And finally, well, you know.
He didn't really care about blood loss so much back in the day.
No. Hepatitis, what's that? It's like you go to Abdullah's rib restaurant. Don't use the forks. Bring your own.
Yeah.
But no, I'm a big DiBiase guy. I got to meet him last year. Great guy. I have an autographed 2x4 by Hacksaw
State
somewhere.
of Mississippi may disagree with you about that.
What's that? Oh yeah. Yeah, this is very true. Oh, he was nice to me. So that's all I can go by. So yeah, Rat Pack number 8 here. So we're gonna move on to number 7. We got the Superpowers. Well, what I consider the Superpowers, the originals, Dusty Rhodes and the Road Warriors. I think a better name would have been the Dusty Road Warriors. But
Yeah.
I guess this is why I'm not a booker. This was basically the group that went against the Horsemen for 3 years until they poked him in the eye. Just your top babyface tag team and your uber babyface superstar on one team. So, good stuff. Led to the War Games matches. Just made piles of money working with the Horsemen in some form or fashion. Let's see, we got a comment once again. Oh, okay. Now, Dwayne, you're making me jump off the rails again. So, Dwayne's got me circling back to Darso here, Gary. I'm going to put this up. He says, I know Demotion had Axe, Smash, and Crush at one point, but are they more known for being tag team before Crush? Yes. Crush was like the tail end when Axe couldn't wrestle anymore because he was old, and I think he had heart problems that were kind of getting in the way. So they had brought Crush in to kind of ease up the workload for him. But yeah, they were a tag team for I think a good 3 years before Crush was even a thought. So I hope that answers your question, Dwayne. Final thoughts on the Dusty Road Warriors. I'm gonna have to make a T-shirt for that.
And they got him with the spike. That was
Man, that got
one of the best turns ever.
That got Dusty fired as the booker.
That's right.
Dusty like the blood, baby, in public. Anytime I can do my Dusty impression, it's almost as good as my Danhausen impression, but that's neither here nor there. All right, number 6, Gary. We're getting a little more modern this time. We got the Wyatt family here for our number 6, and this is the original Wyatt family with Bray, Luke Harper, and Eric Rowan. And also, as an aside, today is the 2-year anniversary of Brody's passing, so there's that to think about. But I love the Wyatt family when they started. That's the version of Bray Wyatt I want to be around. I wasn't a big fan of the Fiend. I'm on the fence about this new Bray. I don't know where they're going with that.
They're taking their time, but they're doing some dumb stuff with it, like the whole Uncle Howdy thing. Like they had him laughing way too long. It's kind of dumb. It took too long to get him like on screen. I know Bray is probably wanting to get his brother back involved, but
I'm hearing that he's Uncle Howdy. I'm hearing Bo's Uncle Howdy.
I mean, Bo was always good.
I like Bo.
And
I believe.
But like the original Wyatt family that gimmick was really good.
Yeah. And I've always been a fan of Brody Lee. I saw Brody when he was wrestling for IWA back in 2008.
Oh, Brody could go, man.
The first match I saw him in person, he wrestled Hero, and it was awesome. I think I have that on DVD somewhere still. But that was the time when Hero was making like maybe TPI and maybe 1 or 2 other shots for Ian while doing like Ring of Honor and all the other stuff. But he came in and had a hell of a match with Brody. And then Bray, I only was aware of him starting when he was with NXT as Husky Harris. And I thought he had talent then, but just it was an awful name and not a great gimmick. But he really found his niche doing the Bray Wyatt stuff. A lot of people compare that character to Max Cady from Cape Fear, which makes a lot of sense. And he just played it so well. He was one of the more believable, like out there characters that Vince had back then. And then Rowan was there.
He's a big guy.
Yeah, big guy, big beard. I respect the beard. I think we both can appreciate a good beard.
Seems like a really good dude. He's always kind of perpetually green.
Yeah. Plus, that big spider didn't do him any favors.
No, that wasn't his fault. I don't think.
That was just a dumb idea.
Yeah.
But the less we talk about that, the better. All right. So Bray and the boys are number 6. Number 5, and this got me a little heat with Narge when I told him what I was doing today, because he suggested the original NWO, Hogan, Hall, and Nash. My take on that is they were only a trio for about 2 months.
Yeah.
Before they start bringing more people in, so they didn't make the list. But as far as the NWO goes, I did include the original Wolfpack, which was Hall, Nash, and Waltman, because they seemed like a subunit of the NWO before the Red and Black from '98. Because these guys were holding down the main events when Hogan was making Three Ninjas hiding in a Mega Mountain and Santa with Muscles, whatever other goofy ass movies he was doing. And Waltman held his own. He did a hell of a job in that spot for being for lack of a better term, a cruiserweight. But when Hall and Nash didn't want to do the favors, they'd say, "Hey, we'll put Waltman in there, and he'll do it." That's how they lost the tag titles to the Steiners. Nash wasn't there, so they did the Freebird rule. So Waltman took the pin. So
Seems fair.
yeah. Plus, Waltman was just a hell of a worker. I love the match he had with Flair in Road Wild. But and then the Outsiders speak for themselves. They're probably my favorite, except for the Steiners. They're my favorite WCW tag team, the Hall and Nash. So, not a big fan of their run in WWE when they brought back the NWO. I thought it was just unnecessary.
Anytime they did the NWO and WWE was horrible.
What did you think of NWO 2000? Brett, the Outsiders, and Jarrett.
I didn't really remember it until you said something about it.
Yeah. I think they got Steiner in there at the end, but it went over like a fart in church, I think.
Yeah.
And that's not knocking any of the individual guys, because I think they're all great. But all right, number 5. No, shit. Number 4. I had these in order, but then I had to change one, and they went to the bottom of the list. Number 4, Gary, sticking with the new stuff. A lot of people probably think they should be higher on the list. I got the New Day.
Oh, come on.
I'm getting.
Yeah, they should probably be higher on the list.
I don't know. After you see who I've got 1, 2, and 3. I mean, granted, you got 2 guys that held the WWE Championship. I never did get the box of Bootios, but
now they had the second longest tag team title reign of all time. So.
Yeah, 12-time something tag team champs. But and I'm a fan of all those guys. I love Big E. He's one of my favorites. He's the one of the inspirations for the Hoss Fights Draw Money T-shirt that we have at ProWrestlingTees.com. I would have thought to put the big sweaty men slapping meat.
Big sweaty men slapping meat.
I found the clip of that on YouTube, and Xavier's losing his mind.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to their podcasts. They just keep having reruns. I know Big E got hurt, but I know he could sit and talk, so I don't know if they're planning on doing more, but it was a really fun podcast. Yeah. They have a really good it had a really good flow to it, and you could tell how much they actually enjoyed each other's company.
Oh yeah. I think my favorite episode is the one where they went through the list of the names that were pitched to them.
Yeah.
This long list is they're all bad. I mean, there's not a good one in the bunch, but I think my favorite was the Amen.
Yeah.
Well, the New Day's not a good name. They just
That's the
made it
best
work.
thing they had to. I think they actually pitched that one. Like they saw this list of names and like, look, well, the song was called New Day.
Yeah.
So why don't we just call ourselves the New Day? And that works. So good on them. All right. So the New Day number 4. Dwayne, by the way, he commented. He said 4 is about right for the New Day. So thank you, Dwayne, for backing me up on that one.
This better be good.
All right. Number 3 is probably my favorite 3-man group, and it's ECW, which we love our ECW, Gary.
Yeah.
Got the triple threat.
Yeah.
The version I went with, and there were several. The original was Douglas, Malenko, and Benoit, but my favorite is the one from like 97, 98 with Douglas, Bigelow, and Candido. Douglas, I mean, still my favorite ECW wrestler of all time. Just, he was everything that you wouldn't expect the ECW champion to be, except for the language.
Yeah.
Not a hardcore guy, just a wrestler's wrestler, and then Candido is about the same. He's one of my favorites, just great technical wrestler. And then Bam Bam is, he's Bam Bam. He's awesome.
Yeah.
So I put that on there. Douglas was the world champion. I think Bigelow held the TD title for a bit. Candido was a tag champ. So they all held gold at one point or another during the triple threat runs. So I think that I thought that warranted getting them put on here. And also Douglas, really nice guy. I met him at the Squared Circle last year, and I swear he didn't have to. He talked to me for a good 10 minutes about the November to Remember '97.
Yeah.
So, that was my fault, though. I brought it up. But yeah, so that's my number 3. Number 2, and if it wasn't for who I have at number 1, these guys would be number 1. But I got the Shield at number 2.
Okay.
I never thought the Shield was. I mean, I know people talk about them all the time, but I guess they're maybe around a year.
Yeah, they had their original run was about 2 years, a year and a half, maybe.
Yeah.
But
they
had the comebacks here and there. But
they barely did anything during that time. They would just run in, and I just never.
Hey, I'll have you know, Moxley was the U.S. champion for most of that run, and Douglas, Rollins, and Roman were the tag champs. But then look at what they did afterwards. All 3 of them were WWE champions.
Yeah.
Moxley, AEW champion. Roman, he's, I guess, God mode is what they say about Roman nowadays. So that's probably the group that had the most post-group success, I guess is a good way to put it.
So I'm guessing the Jersey Triad is number 1.
No, the Jersey Triad is not number 1. I do like the Triad, though, but no, they are not number 1. All right, my number 1, Gary, and John, you want to give me a drum roll? I don't know if that's picked up, but thank you. From Bad Street, USA, they got the Freebirds. This one's a no-brainer to me. They set the standard for the trios, and they had the roles. They had PS could talk him into the building, Gordy could fight, and Buddy could take the pin if necessary. Plus, they did their own music, which goes a long way with me. And I don't know if you know this, Gary. We have a Pod Street USA T-shirt on ProWrestlingTees.com.
No, I did not.
You ought to go ProWrestlingTees.com/JTRPod. Go check it out. See if my brothers noticed my coffee mug.
I noticed. Yeah.
Spicy water. So that wraps up our top 10 Tuesday. We got. Yeah, Dwayne, Shield is definitely number 2. Freebirds are obviously number 1. See, Dwayne, you and me are simpatico today. We know what's going on. But, yeah, so that's our top 10 Tuesday. And thank you for indulging us doing things a little bit different today. And let's see. Where's my banners? So we're going to move on, Gary, to the main event here. Right now we're at 45 minutes, so we're doing pretty good. We got an hour and 15 to get through. A pretty substantial list on the Year in Review 2022 for the Jumping the Rail podcast. This is our second one, and I like to think that I've learned how to do this properly. So I'm going to hide this, put this up. I'm getting pretty good at directing the show.
Impressed.
Thank you. I've made much fewer mistakes than I thought I would. So it's real simple, Gary. We have, I think, 15 subjects. We won't go into great detail on these, but I think where warranted, we can get into some discussions here. And Dwayne, I know you're listening. So as we throw these in, throw yours back into the comments so I got them right on hand, and I'll put them up there. So we got, yes, 15. Excuse me. Topics, and I'll kind of go in order on my banners here. There we go. So we're gonna start. Yeah, right. This is not easy.
Sorry, I'm distracted by
Oh,
JYD here.
for those who don't know, I have an old Sunday Night's Main Event episode on the TV behind me. Is that Funk and JYD?
It's the Funks against JYD and Hogan
Oh, nice.
with the little midget guy.
I believe that's the Haiti kid.
Haiti kid, thank you.
All right, so we got that going on. So if you hear laughter in the background, it's just the ridiculous awesomeness of 80s
JYD had to
wrestling.
carry the Haiti kid into the back, and now he's back with like a wrap around.
Oh, yes, I remember. Cartoon bandaging and all this stuff. All right, so let's start off, Gary, and we'll start with the way we started last year and finisher of the year. So what's basically the best finishing move in wrestling this year? I'll start off with what Narge said. Narge said his favorite finisher of the year was A-Town Down by Austin Theory, which is solid. You know, got a lot of wins with that one. I'm not a big fan of the approach, like the fireman's carry twisting around into a facebuster. I've seen better, but I mean it works, and like I said, it was effective. So Gary, what is your take on finisher of the year?
Well, it's mostly uh, because Riddle is using it now too, and the Usos are now using it as a finisher. Probably like I hate to call it an RKO. I always call it a diamond cutter, but it's now an RKO. I mean, Moxley's just throwing it in the middle of matches now, which
Right.
annoys the absolute crap out of me. But
Plus, I know you're a fan of the lethal injection.
oh yeah,
I see you grimace every time I bring that move up. It always
yeah,
seems ace critical to me, but I know where you're going
yeah,
with this. You're going with the cutter.
yeah. I
And
mean,
I
it's still probably the most versatile finisher. You hit it from anywhere. If
Yeah.
you set it up, if you set it up as your finish, and that's what's going to put somebody. I mean, it's still really good. I can't think of. I'm so tired of kicks, super kicks, mafia kicks, any kind of kicks. I just don't want to ever see another kick again. Like all I see is kicks. So like I want something that has a little bit of like
hide
out of
that.
nowhere impact, and I can't think of anything else off the top of my head that I'm just like, ooh, I really like when that finish hits. Some of them still take too much. Like Liv Morgan's finisher is interesting, but you got to be in the ropes, and there's so many. And Ronda Rousey's armbar is just dumb. Like, is it? I don't know why she bends the arm the way she does, because that doesn't actually put any more pressure on the arm, but it's less. So
Um, I don't think she ever did that when she was fighting in MMA. I think it was all just a
no,
straight on ball. I wonder if
no,
they
she
thought that
decided.
was better.
Yeah,
That's good, pal.
it's great
It's
stuff.
Let's see. Yeah, some comments here. David Sykes. Do you like Triple H's finisher? I love the pedigree. I think it's a cool move. Always liked it. I like how Rollins does it. Uh, although he does it more as a hide spot. So, uh, and also he asked, "What about the tombstone?" I dig it. Hey, I told you, Andre invented it. So that's always going to be high on my list. So, Dwayne, let's see.
So, what's your
Yeah,
finisher
Dwayne.
of the year?
So my finisher, I'm going a little bit off the grid. I'm going GCW, guy named Gringo Loco, who we had on the show last year. This move's called the bass drop. He calls himself the bass god, and I don't know what that means. I mean, I think he talked about it, but this was like over a year ago. But his finishes on the second rope gets a guy in an electric chair facing away from the ring. then he does basically a spinning tornado power bomb off the ropes into the pin. Yeah, this looks cool. He always does it flawlessly, and it's one of those that nobody kicks out of. So that's why I've got that on my list. And I hope Gringo's been doing some AAA and obviously doing GCW, but I want to see him get a shot at least on Dark or something for AEW. Let him get a little spotlight because I think he deserves it. Works as a florist in his downtime, which is interesting. Everybody's got but hey, Bubba Smith was a florist in Police Academy too, so I'm not one to make fun. All right, so that's our first one finish of the year. Let's go male wrestler of the year, Gary. And first off, we'll go with Narge. Narge says MJF. I kind of disagree with that because he wasn't wrestling most of the year. He took a little holiday.
The personality of the year, yeah, maybe. But yeah, mine is. I was thinking about it, and it was to me because I am just. It's probably actually Roman Reigns, but I'm so tired of the bloodline that I'm not going to say Roman Reigns. So I'm going to say Jon Moxley.
Okay.
Because Moxley has done everything that's been requested of him. His characters came a long way. He went to rehab, came out, stayed sober, has been working like an absolute beast in the ring. And whether or not you believe the whole CM Punk thing or not, that he missed vacate, whatever it is. But him and Punk had great matches. Moxley always goes out. He's getting to the point where it's getting silly how much he bleeds. He needs to take some time to let some of that scar tissue heal. Maybe.
Yeah, he's on a fast track to King Curtis IKO levels of scar tissue.
Yeah. So, but I mean, his mic work has gotten a ton better. His character work has gotten a ton better. He's carried that company on his back. There's nobody else. Like I would have said Punk if he wouldn't have got hurt so much. I'm pretty sure that's what happened this time too. I think he did get hurt, and they knew he had to be out, so he's out. And you can't keep getting hurt. Yeah. You can't keep getting hurt, and it's the same thing. Like, I can't think of anybody else. Can't think of anybody else that really, maybe like on the women's side, maybe like a Britt Baker who carried as much weight. Like she carried that whole division for a long time and still kind of does. And she's got some help now. So,
right.
But and WWE was such a mess this year. It was an absolute wreck because this was a wood chipper for Roman Reigns. And I can't care any less about him or Brock Lesnar. And that's all I saw all year. Like, I just don't care. So, if Orton wouldn't have gotten hurt, like, this was the first time I've ever enjoyed Randy Orton in his entire career. Was these last few years, and he then got hurt, may not ever wrestle again. So my choice would be Moxley.
Okay. Dwayne chimes in. Male wrestler of the year for him is Roman Reigns. So I mean, kind of probably the popular answer just for what he had the belts for the whole year, but he only wrestled like 10 matches this year, so that's why he's not on my list. My male wrestler of the year actually is Dax Harwood from AEW. Because just for quality of matches, not only doing the stuff with FTR, but look at all the singles matches he had on Dynamite this year. There wasn't a bad match to be found out of that. He's a great technical wrestler. I love the match he had with Punk last year during the build-up to the Dog Collar match. I think it was before the Dog Collar match. And then the match he had with Cash in the tournament was really good. And then I think I forget when the match was. He had a hell of a match with Bryan Danielson on TV. And then, like I said, add to that the matches FTR had with the Briscoes and with the Young Bucks and all the guys that they've been working with. So I think, as far as just pure match quality, I think Dax is my guy for male wrestler of the year. Plus, he has a glorious mustache. And he's got a podcast now. He took Regal's podcast over.
Yeah.
FTR with Dax Harwood. I forget what the FTR stands for the podcast, but I'm going to be checking that out. I think it drops on Thursday. So go check that out when you can. Let's move on to Female Wrestler of the Year. Here's our graphic. Let's see what Narge said first. We'll start with Female Wrestler of the Year, Toni Storm. I don't know. I like Toni, but I don't have her that high in high esteem for her work this year. She was the interim women's champion, but she still managed to be treated like an afterthought. It seems like in AEW.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong.
They have a bad issue with treating women coming in hot as afterthoughts. Well, they have a bad issue with anybody coming in hot to eight. And I kind of get it. You want to get them their push so people pop for them and want to see them. And then he puts them on dark. And to Tony Khan's credit, and people don't notice it as much, but like the people who are winning titles now are the people who have been there the longest. Like Danielson, Danielson may be on TV, but he's not winning major titles. Like you got like Hangman Page in Major Angles, Jungle Boy's in Major Angles, Sammy Guevara's in Major Angles, Jericho's in Major Angles, guys who have been there. And the guys who have gotten there after that, like in the women, he's kind of, while they're still winning, he's putting them on dark, and he's kind of circulating them in. But now you see your champion is Jamie Hayter, and she's definitely been there a while. And she put her time in, and she's over.
I'm a big fan. Yeah.
Yeah, my female wrestler year is probably because, once again, WWE is usually the Charlotte Flair or the Becky Lynch show, and it's not like Becky didn't have a good year, and she had a great character change, but I would still probably pick Britt Baker because she was the absolute linchpin of an entire division. So that's who I'd pick.
Okay, I'm a big fan of Britt. She's awesome. Never been a bad storyline. It's like you said, she carried that division on her back from day one. But I do have my own, and kind of an obvious choice. And I think Dwayne actually agreed with me. Let me check his comments. Yeah, so Dwayne and I have the same one, and that is Bianca Belair. Just for the year she had, she basically been working nonstop the whole year. No days off. She had a great match with Becky at Mania when she won the belt, and she's been kind of dealing with the logjam of mediocre opposition, making them look good, which says a lot for somebody as new as she is. But I don't think there's a lot to. I still think they dropped the ball not having Becky cut her hair, or Bayley. One of those two should have cut the ponytail off in the build-up to one of their matches,
or at least part of it. You don't have to do the whole thing.
Part of it. Yeah.
But,
and I think that's what I thought they were going to do when they had Bianca cut Becky's hair. I thought they were actually going to do it, but they didn't. So, but no, Bianca's my.
I would have put extensions in it slowly, and then just cut off the extensions. so it actually was longer than
right.
original.
Yeah, but so Bianca's my pick. So we're gonna move on to the next one, newcomer of the year, and this one I'm Narge chimes in, and even though he technically started in December, his pick is Hook from AEW. Taz's boy, and I'm big on Hook. He's awesome for being as young as he is and as new to the business as he is. But Dwayne, I want to see if Dwayne had a comment here because he's commenting all over the place right now. I see nothing for newcomer of the year from Dwayne, so he'll probably pop in here before too long. Gary, who's your newcomer of the year?
I was having a hard time with this one because it doesn't seem like because all the AEW guys they've been there for a while. I can't think of anybody super new like Hook's been on, I guess. In WWE they don't put over young talent, so you never see them. Newcomer. I don't know, to be honest. Like maybe if you're considering who's the guy from Top Flight?
Oh, Dante Martin.
Yeah, he had like when his brother was out, he really came a long way. So I guess I would go with him because
Okay.
when you really think about all like the guys in NXT, super duper green, and they're just not. I don't know. So
Okay.
I can't think of anybody new that they've actually put in a spot. Can you in WWE this year?
I've got
They
a couple. Now, one of them that I had thought of was Roxanne Perez in NXT.
Yeah,
Because,
I just didn't
I mean, she's
consider
new
her
to the
because she's
company.
been around.
Yeah, but she was new to the company though.
Yeah.
But the one I went with, and Dwayne says newcomer Austin Theory. He's not really a newcomer. He was around the last couple of years. But I do like Austin Theory though. So thank you, Dwayne. But the one I'm going with, and I know how much you love the Bloodline, Gary. I'm going Solo Sikoa on this one. Just he's really got a handle on his character. And I said he's young, but he's got that. But no pun intended. He's got that bloodline behind him. So he's grown up in the business. So, and he just has that Samoan ass kicker just down to a science right now. And he's doing Umaga's thumb now.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Oh, I can't think of his name. Why can't I think of his name? I like him a lot. He's the cocky Australian guy in NXT.
Oh, Waller, Grayson Waller.
Oh, I'll pick him.
Yeah,
He's got a
he
lot
did
of.
Bret Hart's Goldberg move last week.
What was that?
He goaded Braun Breaker to come to the ring and spear him, but he had the metal plate under his shirt.
Yeah, I haven't watched NXT. I keep forgetting to watch it, but I'll have to watch it now just to see that.
Yeah. My brother chimed in. He says Logan Paul for newcomer of the year, and hey, he had a hell of a run for only having 3 matches. All 3 matches were great
until he destroyed his knee.
Right.
He'll be back.
He'll be back. Watch, it'll be the Usos against the Paul brothers at WrestleMania.
Oh my gosh.
All right, and so there we got our newcomer. We're moving along very smoothly here, Gary. So we're going to move on to referee of the year, and Narj chimes in, and he and I have the same one. A friend of the show, local legend Chad Patton is our choice for referee of the year for the WWE.
Yeah, I'll go with Chad.
Let's see. I don't see Dwayne's referee. I say the same thing. I picked Chad last year too. The best thing you can say about a referee is that you don't notice the referee in a match, which is why Aubrey Edwards did not get the nod for referee of the year this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chad, he's awesome. He's low key. He gets in there when he has to, but he usually he stays out of the way and lets the guys tell the story, And he's done it for years. As long as he's been there, he's been one of the best referees in the company. So that's why he got my vote, and I'm inclined to think Narge would agree with me on that one.
Yeah.
Although I've seen there's a couple pretty good referees in 0-1 since I've been going and checking them out. But that's something for a different podcast of a different name. Let's see. So we're gonna move on. Oh, hang on. See, and Dwayne picked Aubrey Edwards. Come on, Dwayne. Is it because she's a lady?
She's a lady.
Ooh. I could do the Kabatier bit at the end if my cup's empty. That'd be my sign off. Uh, so let's move on, Gary. We're already 105 for our time right now. So if we want to get under 2 hours, we gotta get cooking. Uh, Play-by-play announcer of the year, and start with Narge. Narge has Michael Cole for play-by-play of the year, and I agree with him.
Cole's-
I've never been a fan of Michael Cole for pretty much as long as he's been in the WWE. But it seems like the shackles are off with Cole now.
Yeah,
can-
post Vince, he's much
He can
better.
himself more.
Yeah, post Vince, he's much better. Probably Cole. I mean, Excalibur isn't too bad, really. He's
No, he's
maybe a
all right.
little verbose.
Yeah, the
Maybe he
the
talks a
sexual
little too
tension with
much.
Regal was off-putting.
Oh, I thought it was hilarious.
No, it was awesome. It's just like and Dwayne also says Michael Cole, so thank you, Dwayne. But yeah, I like Excalibur. He's one of those guys. He kind of walks. Like he was a color guy at first when they had JR doing Dynamite, but he's kind of transitioned to the play-by-play spot when they brought Taz in.
He feels kind of like Mike Tenay to me.
Yeah,
Like that guy who
who.
he knows all the names for all the moves. He kind of keeps things very in the pocket, and because Taz and all those guys then he lets them pepper all their stuff in there.
Yeah, he's definitely. You can tell he watched ECW, Joey Styles. But no, he's good. But I got to give him out to Michael Cole and also Tom Hannafin in Impact, the former Tom Phillips from NXT. He's from what I've seen of Impact, he's done a hell of a job over there since they brought him in.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
Probably
they're
best guy in
announced
Hell.
teams. Actually, I like him
him
and
Revolt, the former Aiden English, is his color guy.
yeah, actually he's really good too.
Yeah, Hannafin way better than Josh Matthews. I was not a fan of Josh Matthews, especially when he tried to do the Michael Cole heel turn a few years ago and get himself over. It just seemed weird. You just wanted to slap him. Dwayne says, "Whatever happened to Mike Tenay?" Well, first off, you misspelled Tenay, but that's all right. I think he's just retired. I think he's just living in Vegas, just doing his own thing now.
I don't think he was. Yeah, he wasn't a young dude when he was doing Nitro. So
No, I think he's like a expert on sports gambling in Vegas. Like he does like blogs and interviews and radio shows and things like that. So he's probably doing pretty well for himself. So where there is a play-by-play of the year, Gary, we have to go color announcer of the year. And this one, Narge actually said Excalibur. He said he would have gone with McAfee, but he was gone for half the year because of football. So,
yeah, I mean, I'd still probably say McAfee just because he was. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I thought he brought a lot of excitement and energy and genuine fandom. And then he could cut a promo, and then he can wrestle. And he was consistent. Like he wasn't like he may have been gone, but I don't know who else to pick. Like, I mean, Taz is always there, but color wise,
Dwayne picked Taz, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah.
And I like Taz. I'm going with Corey Graves on this one for one simple reason. He had to deal with switching partners like 3 times this year because it started with Jimmy Smith, and then I think they had what's the kid's name, Adnan Burke at one point. Then now he's got Kevin Patrick, and he does a really good job of keeping the show moving because all the guys they put him with are new to it. Like Jimmy Smith has done commentary, but he did MMA, he did boxing, so he didn't know the rhythm of doing pro wrestling. So they've leaned on Corey to kind of steer the ship, even though he's not calling it the play-by-play. He's just adding the analysis. But he does a really good job. I've always liked his work, even when he was in NXT. And he can get a little bit goofy now too, since there's no Vince in his ear.
Didn't he name himself after Maynard originally?
Sterling James Keenan was his name. But yeah, so issues, complaints, comments on that one there, Gerald?
No,
He's not the best color guy in the business for nothing, folks.
no, that's fine. I don't.
Anytime I can get a good Bobby Uecker quote in, it's great. All right, so the less said the better, I guess, for Gary on color announcer of the year. Let's move
I
on.
already said. I said mine.
Oh yeah, you said
Yeah.
yeah.
No, like Corey Graves he's always solid. So
yeah.
I thought he was gonna come back to work at some point. Everybody was saying he was, but he never did. So I don't know what happened.
I think he's cleared, but he's too valuable on commentary to move him, I think. So, all right, so let's move on to weekly show of the year. No big surprise. Narge said Dynamite. I disagree with that myself. Let's see. Dwayne's call on this one. Weekly show. Give me a weekly show of the year, Dwayne, if you're listening to this. What is your pick, Gary?
Oh man, like it like before Vince came in and ruined it. It was NXT. I really enjoyed watching NXT. It was a lot of fun. But I don't. And Raw's gotten a lot better. SmackDown's gotten a lot better. So probably Raw, I guess.
Okay. Dwayne agrees with you, by the way. He put Raw. See, I say SmackDown. I think it's been the most consistently best show every week this year. And it's not just because they got the bloodline. They've got a really solid roster. I think they got a stronger roster on SmackDown than they got on Raw, as far as like star power goes. Because they got Roman, they got Bray, they got Drew, Brock when he comes in. So, and they're making the most out of that. Even with Ronda Rousey as their women's champion, they're putting on great shows. So I got to go Team Blue on this one. And yeah, I remember last year, I think I was the only one that said SmackDown and everybody else said Dynamite with when Keith and Narge joined me, and they thought I was nuts. But I'm standing by it. I think it's got to be SmackDown. And I would have put Impact on there too, but I don't get Access TV, so I haven't seen every episode.
I watch it, and the Bully Ray stuff is pretty good. And every once in a while, they'll have like this. They'll have this pocket of really good, but then they have like just some really dumb, boring stuff. Like, but yeah,
Like
they're pushing. Yeah, I mean, it's close. If they had a few million more dollars to throw around for talent and or just production or the ability to go anywhere besides the impact zone, like it would be. I think they could. I think their ratings would go up. I don't know if they'll ever be where they were when they were TNA.
Not while they're on Access TV. They got to get a better network.
Yeah,
they got to get someplace where everybody gets it.
I don't know where that would be at this point because TNT and TBS are taken over by AEW and USA is in Fox. I don't know. I can't imagine.
FX maybe, but that falls under Fox. But yeah, if they could find a good cable outlet to do that is more accessible, I think they would be in way better shape. Because talent-wise, they've got one of the stronger rosters on TV right now. It's just nobody's getting to see it.
Yeah.
And I almost had Josh Alexander as my male wrestler of the year, but Dax edged him out a little bit. All right.
Alexander's
So-
really good.
He's very good. He's good at wrestling. All right, let's move on. What do we got? Faction of the year. Let's start with Narge. And he says, let's see, where is it at? Looks like he's got the bloodline for faction of the year. Yeah, he's got the bloodline. So, I mean, kind of goes without saying for a lot of people. I think Dwayne said the same thing. So, so we got that out of the way. So, what's your call, Gary?
It's probably got to be the bloodline. I liked the Inner Circle / Jericho Appreciation Society stuff better because at least it's funny,
Mm-hmm.
and like I like just the humor of it,
Uh-huh.
but just pure like unadulterated, like every week in your face, it's got to be the bloodline. They're on every single show 9 times, so.
Okay. So just to be different, I'm going to go with somebody different. And Bloodline's a hell of an argument. I mean, anybody with any sense in their head would pick them, but it's been said I don't have that much sense in my head. I'm going Bullet Club on this one because not only are they in New Japan and they got the world champion, I think they had Chase and Fale had the tag titles a few times. Carl Anderson's still the never openweight champion with Bullet Club, even though he's with WWE now. But on top of that, they've been all over the place. They've got people in Impact, they got people in AEW, NWA, Ring of Honor. So they've got guys all over the place representing Bullet Club in the U.S. along with what they're doing in New Japan. And then you look at what Jay White did, defending the world title in the Forbidden Door pay-per-view in Chicago, and then going to Impact and feuding with everybody, putting together that group with Ace Austin and Chris Bay for their version of Bullet Club. So I think they've done a lot. And like I said, I mean, the Bloodline is the obvious choice, but the Bullet Club has really made a lot of waves this year. So that's why they get my pick. Plus, they have a cool T-shirt. All right, let's move on, Gary, and we're doing good here. Let's go. Next choice, feud of the year. This one, there were a couple of choices. What did Narge say? Narge says, "Wait, Narge is really high on the Bloodline. Bloodline versus WWE, which I'm guessing means is like the War Games and all the people that feud, like RK Bro, Owens, all that stuff. Which I get. It's
Mine would be Punk MJF,
okay.
just because the payoffs for that, like the lead up to that, those last few matches was really good, and mostly because like Punk did his job, he elevated Max.
Mm-hmm.
Like Max was already good, but Punk came in and was like, okay, like I'm gonna. It wasn't getting him over. It was elevating him. Like it was, and it worked. I mean, it's a shame that Punk got hurt because I'm sure the next thing he was gonna do was drop the title to Max, and that would have meant more. But got hurt. That's what happens. But that whole feud, and it was a slower played feud, and it kind of went, and then it went away, and then came back. So yeah, I'd pick that one.
Okay, I can get behind that. That was a good feud. The one I went with, and they only had 3 matches spaced out over the whole year, but I went FTR and the Briscoes. Starting in April when FTR beat Briscoes for the Ring of Honor titles, and they had that dog collar match, the final battle. But then in the middle of it, they had a 2 out of 3 falls match at I think it was Death Before Dishonor, the pay per view, and all three of them were great. I think each match went like 40 minutes. Uh, but yeah, it's you know me, I'm a big fan of tag team wrestling, Gary, and those are probably my two favorite tag teams in the business right now.
Yeah.
I've always been a Briscoes fan. I love the revival when they were in NXT, and now the stuff they're doing in AEW. And the thing I like about what they're doing in AEW is Tony's letting the guys work singles on top of doing the tag stuff, because it's like the old saying is like you can't have a great tag team without two great singles wrestlers, and they're getting to show that on AEW. But yeah, I'd pick that. I wish they would have gotten some time on Dynamite for the Briscoes to come in, but you know, circumstances are what they are, so I'm not gonna complain too much about that. But yeah, so that's my pick is FTR and the Briscoes. Dwayne chimes in, feud Moxley versus Page. That's kind of a new one, Dwayne. That just started like a month ago. So I mean, I'm all for it because I like both those guys, and I want to see what happens there. But that might be a little early to go with them for feud of the year. But to each their own, as the old saying goes. Uh, Tag team of the year. It's kind of going hand in hand with what I was just saying. Let me see what Nard's put here for tag team. He's got FTR, and I agree. As good as
Yeah.
the Uso year was, it's got to be FTR.
Yeah. No, Usos aren't even in the top 5. The way they're working now.
Anti-bloodline though.
Well, I mean, it's just their work's not as sharp as it used to be. When they were sharp, yeah, they were top 3, but they're just not like they're. I know why. They've been working like almost nonstop for 2 years. Give them some time off, let them heal up. But yeah, it's FTR, and they got the belts to prove it. They have the storylines. They've bounced around. They can cut promos. They gotten over on their own. They don't need a faction behind them. Great music, great gimmicks.
Oh, awesome music! I love the music.
Yeah. So yeah, FTR.
And I liked them with Tully originally, but they've proven that they don't need a mouthpiece to get over.
Yeah.
By the way, Dwayne did pick the Usos for tag team of the year, so that's neither here nor there. Thank you, Dwayne. But yeah, I mean, there was not a day in 2022 that the FTR guys did not have at least one title belt around their waist. I think they're going on 2 years with that AAA tag titles, and then they held the Ring of Honor titles from April till like 3 weeks ago. Won the IWGP titles in August, so yeah, they're going to Wrestle Kingdom in January to defend those titles, so it's gonna be cool to see. But yeah, so FTR, it's kind of for a lot of people, it's a 1 and 1A between them and the Usos. I think it's a 1 and 1A between FTR and the Briscoes, and then the Usos number 3. But that's just my take on it. But I think we'll move on to we're getting into the final 4, Gary, for our subject. So we're doing really good. We're at an hour and a half, so we're already kicking last year's time in the ass. So we're gonna go heel of the year. I love this category. Let's start with Narge. Heel of the year, Roman Reigns. But my problem with that is people are cheering Roman Reigns. He's getting over doing the whole "we the ones" business and acknowledging all that stuff. I mean, when he wants to be, he can be a hell of a heel, but it's yeah, he's getting cheered a little too much for my taste.
Yeah, like Roman was a heel, and I guess he technically still is, but yeah, people are just started doing, buying into the gimmick. So, I'm, it's a toss up between a sentimental favorite of mine and probably the actual heel of the year, but it would be like a real toss up with me between Christian Cage and MJF, because Christian's heel work was just out of this world. Example, like He got
Oh, yeah.
so much heat, and he just delivered it perfectly. He did his job perfectly. He baited people. He switched. He never apologized for anything. It wasn't like cheap. He just was going after like the jugular all the time. And MJF's just your classic like Roddy Piper heel, which is
Yeah.
so difficult to see now, and he's always that. So it's, but yeah, like that would be my 1A 1B, I guess, for that.
Okay, I'm going to go Christian. He's doing the best work of the last 10 years since he was on TNA. It's like you said, don't taking shots at Jungle Boy's dad and his family in general. Uh, I was scratching my head when they first did the thing where Luchasaurus like turned heel, then turned back, but then it made perfect sense when he wound up double crossing Jungle Boy at was it All Out, I think it was, when he got chokeslammed on the grating. But yeah, then he's what Christian is doing is showing all these young guys in AEW, hey, here's how you do it. MJF's got a good handle on it, and by the way, Dwayne picked MJF for heel of the year. But as far as like good old school heel work, that he's about it. It's Christian and to an extent Jericho, but Jericho's another one of those guys that's getting over too much. People are still singing his song and cheering along with him. But yeah, I'm with you. For mine, it was a cross up between Christian, MJF, and Matt Cardona this year. Because Cardona was my pick last year when he won the
I mean,
GCW title.
He did a lot of good.
Yeah, and he did it across multiple promotions. He was doing Impact and GCW and the NWA and all this. But yeah, in the end, I got to go Christian on this one. Just because I love heat. You know, he doesn't, and it's not the cheap heat like he used to get with the 5 second pose in WWF, you know?
Yeah.
Which was still entertaining, but this is a very different kind of heel that we're looking at.
Well,
than,
with that, like, man, if they could have, if I know there was injuries, but it's so dumb. If they would have let the Judgment Day angle play out the way it should have played out, I might have picked Edge.
yeah.
His heel work was really good at the time. Like, it was convincing. He didn't waver. But yeah, I'd probably pick Christian, with a close second being MJF.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So where there is a good heel, Gerald, we have to have a good baby face. So let's go baby face of the year here. And Dwayne, I don't think you have put your baby face of the year yet. So go ahead and throw that up there for me. And starting off as usual with Narge. Let's see. He says John Moxley. Okay, solid choice. Basically, he's been the top babyface in AEW since the start of AEW, so makes a lot of sense. He was their champion for a while, and I like Moxley. I don't know where they're going now that there's no Blackpool Combat Club. Is he going to go back to being a loner? Kind of hope he does.
Well, he's still doing stuff with it. He's still doing tag matches and stuff with them. The Regal's just gone. They're still,
right.
I think they're still a unit.
Yeah. So now there's the Combat Club because there's no Blackpool in the Blackpool Combat Club now.
Yeah.
Oh, Regal.
Faces.
So Narda goes Moxley. What's your pick, Gary?
I mean, it's hard to pick a face in WWE because they've just all been run through a grinder. Like, none of them have had like a super long run. Like, you have Drew McIntyre, but like he's just kind of been made a generic face. He spent most of the year feuding with or wrestling with Sheamus. Not really done much. I don't know. Like, Bryan kind of came in as a heel.
Yeah, he kind of went back and forth a lot.
So I'm gonna pick one, and it'll be my hot take, and it's gonna be CM Punk, not for the work he did, but for the simple fact that he may have actually punched Kenny Omega in the mouth.
Gary Vasilio, Jim Cornette's favorite podcaster. You heard it here.
If he and Ace Steel actually, which I don't think they did to this day, you can't convince me because I think it's all work. But
Oh yeah. You said it
he
for
and
me.
Ace,
You think it's work?
if he and Ace Steel bit and or fought off like the elite, then he will be my face of the year every year because those guys annoy the crap out of me.
Oh,
I'm
I
not
think
saying
Cornette-
they're not saying they're bad at their jobs. I just they're bad at the kind of wrestling that I actually enjoy.
Yes.
Like when I first started watching Omega, it was kind of like the first time I saw Lucha. It was a lot of fun, but then like when you watch enough Lucha, you're like, okay, like eventually you're gonna have to stop spinning around, right? and you come back to it, and you're like, oh, okay, this is fun again. Like, but Omega's been so like shoved down. Like Omega and the Bucks have been shoved down everybody's throats for like the last 3 years. They're on every time. They're on every show. They've had all of the titles. Not saying Kenny wasn't a good champion. I thought he was actually a good champion. But I just every match ends up being the same match. Lots of knee strikes. So if Punk just said, "Hey, this is dumb," and he punched him in the mouth, just for the simple fact that he may have. I'm going with Punk for my babyface of the year.
Okay. All right. So Dwayne chimed in, Gary. He said Jungle Boy, Jack Perry for Babyface of the Year, and I
It's not a
almost
bad
went with
choice.
Jungle Boy. I almost went with Jungle Boy because he has been a gung ho babyface, and the fans just love him. They love to sing his song. Plus, I love the fact he uses that song for his music because I hadn't heard that song in like 25 years before he started
Yeah.
using it. Tarzan Boy by Baltimore, if you remember that one. I'm getting confused looks from my brother, which I'll play it for you after this.
All right.
Now, I went a different way because you were talking about how there's no baby faces in WWE. You were leaving out a niche part of the WWE product, my friend. And my choice for babyface of the year is actually Roxanne Perez in NXT.
Yeah.
Number one, she's over. She has been getting a heck of a run. She just, we all know what happened with Mandy Rose. Roxanne won the NXT Women's title a couple weeks ago. She won the tag titles, won the Dusty Cup, or not the Dusty Cup, the whatever the top prospect race to the top turn, whatever it was called, to get her a title shot. And she's just super popular with the fans. She had a pretty good year. She started the year as the Ring of Honor Women's Champion. She defended the title in Impact. Then I think she may have worked a dark for AW. So she worked for everybody this year before she got signed by WWE. And she's only 21, 22 years old. She's just a kid. She started training when she was 14 and training with Booker T. So, but yeah, they've done a really good job telling her story and getting her over, and she's putting the work in. So she's my pick for babyface of the year.
Not a bad choice.
Thank you. All right. So here we go. Okay, so we got everybody chimed in there. 2 left, Gary. We're doing good. I'm proud of us for probably going to get this in under 2 hours.
Oh, wow, look at that.
I know, right? All right, so moving on from babyface of the year, now just in general, wrestler of the year. Just across the board, who was the best wrestler this year for you? Well, first off, let's get Narja State while I'm thinking about it. He says Roman Reigns for wrestler of the year. He's kind of on the nose a little bit this year. Takes a lot of bloodline, a lot of AEW, which is expected of our buddy Narj, but that's all right.
To me, well, I mean, like once again, he's not wrong but Roman is more of a moves of doom guy than Cena now. Like that dude just does. He punches and he punches some more and then he spears. That's about it. Yeah, he'll do that Samoan drop.
Every Samoan is legally required to do a Samoan drop in their matches.
Yeah, I understand that. Like I just talked about flippy do guys annoying me, but guys who do absolutely nothing every match also annoy me. Like there's a balance you have to strike, and
Right.
so I'm man, like I'm it would like actual worker wrestler. Is that kind of what we're talking about here?
Just overall, the in-ring promo, general performance, that kind of thing.
I think honestly, it is a pretty even heat with Jericho and Danielson
Okay.
for me, because Jericho lost all that weight, has had some banger matches,
Mm-hmm.
still is great on the mic. Just a few weeks ago, he put over a brand new guy cleaning the ring because he
Yeah.
saw something in him.
Then you threw a fireball
Brian,
at him.
yeah, tapped out to Cesaro in the giant swing.
Yeah, that
Was
never
putting
happens.
people over on his way out, but you could still put the title on him at any point, and he would be
Mm-hmm.
a very credible champion. Yeah, he just elevated the Ring of Honor title
Mm-hmm.
by holding it, by doing what he did,
Yeah.
and Brian is like he's putting on some of the best matches he's ever wrestled. This period,
Yeah.
like I've watched him for a long time, and the dude is just locked in. And his promos are better. His character work is better. He's doing less, but he's doing more at the same time with it. He's not
Mm-hmm.
trying to curry favor. He's just being him. And the Blackpool combat stuff was really good with that.
Yeah.
So I think they're really neck and neck. Like Brian's a guy that you could have put the title on when he first came in, and nobody would have batted an
I
eye.
would.
You could still like he could upset MJF right now, and everybody would be upset for just a second because they're like, "Oh, MJF just got the belt." But you know, I mean, people would get it, but I don't think they're going to do that. But I think wrestlers of the year is probably, to me, that's a tie between those two.
Okay. I went a little broader this year. My choice for wrestler of the year, it kind of encompasses the in-ring, the character work, the promos, the all this. And I went with Sami Zayn for wrestler of the year. Uh, Number one, you never see him have a bad match ever since his El Generico days. He's doing the best character work he's done since he was El Generico, with the bloodline and everything. The match with Johnny Knoxville at WrestleMania is probably the funnest match I saw the whole year. And I'm not a big fan of Jackass, but it, it made me pop quite a few times. So that goes there. The promo work. Where'd you go, Gary? There you go. You buffered on me, like Michael and or Bruce. Uh, but no, he's on the cusp of huge things next year because he's going to be feuding with the Bloodline. It's pretty much a given fact. And there's some people saying that he should be the guy to take one of those belts off of Roman at some point, which I don't know about that. But the Bloodline has gotten Sammy over to the moon. Sammy's gotten the Bloodline over at the same time, which is really hard to do to make that happen. And I expect big things out of Sammy next year. And oh, okay, I found it. What's that, Gary?
I guess I'm just thinking of like honorable mentions probably to me would go to like Kevin Owens, and just for the width and breadth of his year, he went from being a heel, calling out Stone Cold Steve Austin, feuding with Seth Rollins, having Stone Cold's probably last match, maybe last match, but having a really good match with him.
That's awesome.
Keeping him safe, and then having like doing his 100% best to get over that stupid Elias brother Ezekiel thing. He was the best part of that because he was so earnest about it.
Oh yeah.
And his work recently was just like his intensity and his promo work and his in-ring work with the Bloodline, he's way over. Like, if it wasn't for his mid-year where they just tried to bury him again, I would probably have picked him. But he's coming on strong at the end of the year.
You know, about a week ago, I was watching some Ring of Honor from 2015, 2014, 2015. It was KO's like tail end of his run there. So I saw a couple of his matches, Silas Young and Nakamura. And I'm seeing a lot of similarities between that Kevin Steen with KO now, as going into this last SmackDown, where he's going to be teaming up with Cena against Roman and Sammy, and then I think he's got a title shot at the Rumble, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, he would have been a strong choice, but yeah, it's like you said, that middle of the year he was kind of in limbo, working with Ezekiel and being paired up with the Alpha Academy and all that stuff. So. But there's one thing you can't say about Kevin Owens is he doesn't try to get everything he does over.
No, he doesn't care.
No.
If it gets over or not, he's just gonna do it.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard, they finally announced who they were supposed to reveal to be the guy that threw the pie in his face at that food fight on 4th of July a few years ago. It was supposed to be Vince.
Nobody. Oh,
that's good shit, pal.
Good.
But Vince is trying to get a different kind of pie in the face these days. So
yeah, he's trying to bring down the entire WWE by coming back.
Yeah. All right, Gary, we got one more if you got the time.
Okay.
It's the big one. Match of the year. So first off, we'll get Narja's take here. He's got the it's in from last December. Wait, maybe he needs to be more specific with this. He says FTR Briscoes at ROH in December. That could be this one from 2 weeks ago. I'm going to assume it was that one. I'm going to assume he's talking about the double dog collar match, which I don't know if you saw. I only saw like a fan cam YouTube video of it because I wasn't home to buy the pay-per-view. But when I saw it, it was just fantastic. Good old school dog collar. You got the color. You get there's actually psychology in the dog collar match, which is unheard of. And and I guess you could say the right team won. The Briscoes got the belts back, and FTR can, I guess, focus more on AEW stuff. But it went almost 45 minutes, I want to say.
Yeah.
And it's, I think the FTR and the Briscoes could be this generation's Midnight Express and Rock and Roll Express. I mean, different character, obviously, but as far as like a good tag team rivalry goes, I think that could be it. So, Gary, that is Narja's choice. Let me see if Dwayne has added his choice for match of the year. What's your pick while I'm looking?
Man, there's one I just saw, and makes me wish that Io Sky was still in Japan. But it was Kari Sane versus Mayu Itonami.
Oh, is that the one for the title?
Yeah, it was insanely good. It was just really super hard hitting. They sold, like at the end of the match, they could barely like get up, and they weren't just like bouncing around and just chopping up. I really enjoyed like the Austin comeback just because it was Austin, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like the best match ever, but like I'm probably gonna say because of the entrances and the build up and the match itself was actually pretty good. Punk versus MJF dog collar.
I really like that Punk brought back the ROH entrance with the AFI and the
gear.
Punk.
I'm and don't get me wrong, I think I'm not the world's biggest Punk is the greatest wrestler in the world fan. I think always been super solid, but that match was well put together, well thought out, well
Yeah.
timed. Um, the blood wasn't excessive. The violence wasn't like they used the violence in a strategic way. Uh, the end with Wardlow in the ring and help move his storyline along. It finished their storyline out. So yeah, I thought that was
Yeah, they didn't bleed a whole lot, but Punk had the white gear on, so that made it look like it was more. So, that's the rule. If the guy wears white trunks to the ring for some sort of an extreme match like that, he's going to bleed a lot.
Yeah.
Or it's going to look like it. All right, Dwayne put his take in for match of the year. He says Sheamus versus Gunther from SmackDown for the IC title, which was a really good match.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not my pick, but I mean, it's hard to argue with that one. But you know me, I love a good. It's like the t-shirt says, I love a good house fight, and those guys beat the crap out of each other for about 25, 30 minutes. And then it led to that 6-man in Wales with Imperium and the Brawling Brutes, which I hate the name of that group, but I love the group. Where it was just same deal. It was like a half hour of just beating the piss out of each other. So yeah, I like that call, Dwayne. That's a good call. I'm gonna turn it over to my brother here, John. What is your match of the year?
The one match I went out of my way to watch was at SummerSlam, Reigns and Lesnar.
Yes.
That was so much fun. It's a Central Illinois podcast, so who among us hasn't done irresponsible things with tractors before? And then that was like Triple H's first pay-per-view, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of the changing of the guard and got everybody fired up. It was just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. And I like Lesnar, and I know a lot of people don't.
I also liked when Theory tried to cash in, but he just got beat up.
Right.
That's a good call. I love that. Plus, it's like you said. I mean, who doesn't want to do crazy things with a tractor?
Yes.
And we were watching over at Marco's house, and when he lifted the ring up.
Oh, that was the best part. Yep.
And the referee sold that like a champ too. Yeah. Just bounced. All right, so I'm going a little bit different for my match of the year. I'm going back to Impact. It was just a couple weeks ago. Josh Alexander against Speedball Mike Bailey for the Impact World Championship. They went about 58 minutes on TV, which doesn't happen very often. And it wasn't 58 minutes that drags on and makes you wonder how long the match has been going on for. It flow was really good on that match. And I started watching Speedball when he was with GCW. He still goes there every now and then. But then he went from there to Impact and won the X Division title. I forget who beat him for that. But then, like he said, Alexander's doing this thing with Bully right now. But just the idea that he's in the middle of this big feud, which is going to, the match is happening in the middle of January, but they still brought a completely different guy out to go an hour with him on TV. That's almost NWA booking, like 80s Flair booking, with if he was working Dusty, but then he'd go do 45 minutes with George South on TV.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting Speedball in the George South category because he's hardly enhancement. He's a star. He's gonna be something. But yeah, that's I love those good long just it's almost you call it a clinic, it was really good. That one is on YouTube. I'll put that up on the Facebook page. I'll try to get although I need to find that Io Sky or Kairi Sane match that you're talking about. It's on New Japan World. I just haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I saw it on. Yeah, I know you don't have access, but that's where I saw it on. I had it on.
Oh yeah, because they got the New Japan show after Impact.
If you've never seen Io Sky versus Kairi Sane back in the day, it's on YouTube. It's when Io still did the rolling Germans, and that match is absolutely insane. They just never used Kairi anywhere near where she needed to be used when she came into WWE. And I know she looks small, but and I know she got hurt, but you have people like Charlotte Flair just throwing her around like a rag doll and not protecting her. Like in Japan, she's wrestling people more her size, but you they just needed to figure out how to use her right. Like I'm afraid they're going to do the same thing with Io, and I'm hoping like Asuka goes back to the Kana gimmick or something. But
I think
yeah,
she's
Jeff.
getting ready to change. I think with Triple H with the book, I think Io's in better shape than if Vince was running things.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that's what ruined Kyrie on the main roster.
Every woman on the roster is in better shape, and every woman in the front office apparently. For any woman that walks by, or
any woman who's not blood relation to Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't talk about that. All right. Well, that concludes our list, Gary. We're doing good. We're just we're running smooth as silk here. But before we say goodbye, we do have to pay some bills, Gary. So let me find my dandy up there. ProWrestlingTees.com/JTRPod. These are the new shirts we've got up. I got a couple more pending that haven't been approved yet. I got the logo shirt. We got Wrestling Makes Me Happy. What they call the Blood Money shirt. Red equals green. It's that's just old school philosophy. And then my favorite, the Hoss Fights Draw Money shirt. All those are on there, plus all the other ones that we've put up over the last several months. Go take a look. If you like something, it helps us out, helps us keep the microphones on. And so I think this is a good time, Gary, to depart. Thanks for joining us. Thanks everybody that chimed in with the comments. This will drop on the podcast on Thursday, and it'll stay on YouTube forever if you want to watch it again sometime. So, Gary, I think this was a good one. We had to call a couple audibles, but I think this is a good time to take that caption down. Let's see. Boom, there we go. All right. Well, say goodbye, Gary.
Goodbye, Gary.
All right. I had a feeling you were going to do that. So for Gary, for John, for everybody out there, this is Reb, so we'll see you guys in a couple weeks. See you later.